Long ago, there was a place called Dryvale. It wasn't always dry. In fact, it used to be one of the greenest, most beautiful lands you could ever imagine. Tall trees swayed in the breeze, rivers sparkled in the sun, and children played by clear blue lakes. Farmers grew big, juicy fruits. Animals drank happily by the streams. People laughed, danced, and sang. But that was 5 years ago. Now, Dryvale is a land of cracked earth and broken dreams. The rivers have dried into dusty paths. The once green fields are now brown and empty. Crops won't grow. Animals have left. And the sky, always hot, always cloudless. Not a single drop of rain in all those years. The people try everything. They dig deeper wells. They pray in the temples. They even offer their best food to the sky. But nothing works. Day by day, their hope begins to fade. But old folks still whisper a tale. They say many years ago, a mysterious drummer came to Dryvale. No one knew where he came from. He didn't speak much, but when he played his drum, something magical happened. Rain. The story says he beat the drum with the rhythm of a heartbeat, slow and steady at first, then strong and wild like a storm. The sky opened. The clouds wept. And the rain poured. But after that day, the drummer disappeared, just like that. Gone. No one ever saw him again. Now, people only speak of him in hushed voices. A legend. A dream. A story for children. Still, some believe he was real. And some still hope that one day the drummer and the rain will return. Before we begin with the story of the wandering drummer who uses a magical beat to bring rain to a drought-stricken land, but at a price. Support us by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. Now, let's begin. One hot morning, just as the sun burned high above Dryvale, a stranger walked into the village. He wore old, tattered robes that flapped in the wind. His feet were bare, dusty from the long road behind him. Slung over his shoulder was a strange object, a hand-carved drum made of dark wood and worn leather. It was beautiful, but something about it felt alive. People stared. Whispers followed him. Who is he? Another beggar? What's that drum for? We need water, not music. But the man didn't speak. He just walked slowly, calmly, like he had all the time in the world. His eyes were dark and deep, like clouds before a storm, quiet but powerful. At the center of the village, he finally stopped. Children gathered around. Curious eyes watched from behind doors and broken windows. Then he spoke. His voice was soft but strong. My name is Kofi Tumi. I have walked far. I carry the beat that can call the rain. The villagers blinked. Some laughed out loud. Others rolled their eyes. This again, one man said. You think a drum can fix 5 years of dry skies? We've had dancers, singers, and even sky shouters, another woman scoffed. Nothing works. Kofi didn't get angry. He simply placed his drum on the ground. He looked at the sky, then back at the people. His voice dropped to a whisper, but somehow everyone heard it. I can summon the rain, but rain never comes free. And with that, he sat down quietly, his hands resting gently on the drum. The village square was silent. Everyone waited. Eyes were on Kofi as he sat with his drum in his lap. Then, he closed his eyes and began to play. At first, the sound was soft. Boom, boom. Slow and deep, like the sound of a heartbeat in a cave. His hands moved gently at first, tapping the drum like he was waking it from sleep. The villagers watched, confused. Some folded their arms. Others turned to leave. But then the rhythm changed. Faster, louder, wilder. Boom ba boom. Ba boom boom. Boom. It echoed through the village. It bounced off the walls. It danced in the air. The sky began to change. Dark clouds rolled in, fast, as if they had been hiding just beyond the hills, waiting for the signal. The sun disappeared. A cold wind rushed through the streets. Chickens clucked and ran for shelter. Babies cried. Dogs howled. Kofi kept drumming, his hands now a blur. His head tilted back. His whole body moved with the rhythm. It wasn't music. It was magic. Pure, pounding magic. Then, crack, a bolt of lightning shot down from the sky. It hit a far-off hill and lit up the whole village for a second. And then it began. Rain. Not a drizzle, not a few drops, but heavy, wild, beautiful rain. It poured from the sky like a waterfall. People gasped. Some screamed with joy. Others dropped to their knees. Children ran out and jumped in puddles. Farmers held their faces up to the sky, crying and laughing. Elders wept in silence, their hands shaking with wonder. One old woman whispered, "It's him, the drummer from the stories. He's real." And still, Kofi drummed. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just played, as the village danced in the storm. That night, the village of Dryvale was alive like never before. The rain kept falling, soaking the earth, filling old wells, and washing away years of dust and sadness. People lit fires and danced around them, singing and cheering. Children splashed in muddy puddles. Mothers hugged their babies tighter. Farmers smiled for the first time in years. No one went to bed early. The whole village stayed up to celebrate. Kofi sat quietly at the edge of the square, under a tree, his drum resting beside him. The firelight flickered in his eyes, but he didn't smile. He simply watched. Finally, when the noise settled down a little, he stood and spoke. "Listen carefully," he said. His voice was low, but somehow everyone heard it. "This drum is not mine. I borrowed it. Its rhythm comes from the rain spirits, the ones who watch the skies, the rivers, the clouds. They gave me their beat, but they always take something in return." The villagers paused for a moment. Some looked confused. Others frowned. "What price?" someone asked. Kofi looked around at their faces. His eyes were tired, serious. "I don't know what it will be, but rain never comes for free." There was silence. A few people nodded politely. One or two looked nervous. But most of the villagers just went back to dancing and singing. "We've got water again." Someone shouted, "Let the man speak his riddles. Who cares?" They were too happy to listen, too full of joy to think about warnings. Kofi said no more. He picked up his drum and slowly walked away into the darkness. The next morning, the sun rose softly over Dryvale. The fields shimmered with dew. Birds sang again. But Kofi Tumi was gone. No one saw him leave. No footprints. No note. Just a few small drops of water where he had been sitting, and silence. Weeks passed. Then months. With the rain came new life. The ground grew soft and rich again. Tiny green shoots peeked through the soil. Flowers bloomed. The rivers filled and flowed. The trees danced in the wind. Dryvale was alive. Farmers harvested strong, healthy crops. The markets were full. Children laughed again. The village had become a place of joy, and the people were proud. But word began to spread. Asterisk from one village to the next, the story traveled. Dryvale has water. People came from far away to see the miracle for themselves. They asked the villagers, "How did you bring the rain?" The answer was always the same. A man named Kofi Tumi, a drummer. He summoned it. Soon, the chief of Dryvale, a man named Chief Mensa, saw an opportunity. He had always wanted more power. Now, he had something no other village did: rain. And where there is rain, there is water. And where there is water, there is money. If we had more storms, he thought, we could sell our water to others. We could be rich. So Chief Mensa gathered his guards and set out to find the drummer. It took weeks. But finally, deep in the hills beyond Dryvale, they found Kofi sitting by a stream, his drum beside him, worn and silent. "Kofi Tumi," the chief called. "Come back with us. We need another storm." Kofi looked up, calm as always. "You already have enough," he said. "The earth is full. The people are fed." The chief frowned. "No, I want more. Other towns are thirsty. They'll pay us. You'll make the rain again." Kofi stood slowly. "Rain is not a gift you can sell. It belongs to all." Chief Mensa's eyes turned cold. "Then you leave me no choice." With a nod of his head, his guard stepped forward and took the drum. Kofi did not fight. He only whispered, "You do not know what you're stealing." Back in Dryvale, Chief Mensa stood proudly in the center of the village, the stolen drum resting on a wooden stand before him. "Let the storm come again," he shouted. "Let the world see our power." The villagers gathered around, confused and unsure. Some whispered, "Where is Kofi?" Others stared at the drum with fear in their eyes. But the chief ignored them all. He pointed to the village drummer, a young man named Ebo. "Play it," he ordered. "Play until the sky listens." Ebo hesitated. "Sir, this drum isn't ours. Maybe we shouldn't." "Play," the chief barked. So, with trembling hands, Ebo picked up the drumsticks and began to beat. At first, the sound was slow and clumsy. He didn't know the rhythm. Then he copied what he remembered from Kofi's playing. Boom be boom, boom, boom boom. The drum echoed through the village. The sky began to change. But this time, something was wrong. The clouds did not come gently. They charged in, black and angry, like smoke from a giant fire. The wind howled, spinning dust and leaves into the air. The light disappeared. Shadows stretched across the land. Then the rain came, but it wasn't rain. It was ice. Sharp, heavy hailstones crashed down like rocks, smashing roofs and windows. The fields, once full of green, were crushed. The young crops were torn apart in seconds. Water gushed through the streets like a river gone wild. People screamed and ran for shelter. Mothers held their children tight. Chickens flew into the air. The goats broke their ropes and ran. And above it all, strange whispers filled the air, ghostly voices that no one could understand. They seemed to come from the wind, the clouds, the drum itself. Ebo's hands shook. His eyes grew wide. Then he froze. The drum let out one final terrible note, and Ebo fell to the ground, lifeless, the stick still in his hands. The storm raged on. And Chief Mensa? He finally realized the price had begun. The storm would not stop. Water rushed through the village, tearing away fences, washing over crops, flooding homes. The sky roared with thunder, and lightning danced through the clouds like wildfire. Then, suddenly, all went quiet. The wind stopped. The hail ended. The clouds seemed to pause. And from the shadows, Kofi Tumi returned. He stood at the edge of the village, the stolen drum back in his hands. But now, the drum was different. Silent, cold, like something had been taken from it. People stared at him in shock. Some ran to him. Others fell to their knees. Kofi stepped slowly into the square. The chief stood frozen, shaking, soaked from head to toe. Kofi looked at him, not with anger, but with sadness. "You were warned," he said softly. "The drum is not just wood and skin. It holds a spirit. Every beat must be paid for." The villagers listened in silence. "Rain can wash away pain," Kofi continued, "but balance always follows. Too much rain becomes a flood. Too much power becomes destruction." He took a deep breath and placed the drum gently on the wet ground. Then he knelt beside it and began to play. But this time, it wasn't the storm rhythm. It was something else, a lullaby. Soft, gentle, like a mother rocking a baby to sleep. The drum sang a sad goodbye. As he played, the clouds slowly began to part. The wind faded. The sky turned blue again. The floodwaters calmed. Birds returned to the trees. But Kofi was changing. His hands grew faint. His arms turned pale like smoke. His body began to fade, bit by bit, into thin air. The villagers gasped. "Wait!" one child cried. "Don't go!" Kofi looked at them one last time and said, "May you never forget that all power is borrowed. Use it with care." And with that, he was gone. Nothing remained but the silent drum, and a village forever changed. After the storm faded and the skies cleared, the people of Dryvale stood quietly around the village square. They looked at the drum, still and silent, lying in the mud where Kofi had vanished. No one dared to touch it. The chief, filled with shame, stepped forward. His voice trembled as he said, "We must bury it and remember." And so, the villagers carried the drum to the oldest tree in Dryvale, a wide ancient baobab whose roots stretched deep into the earth. They dug a hole beneath it and gently placed the drum inside. Then, they covered it with soil and built a small shrine on top. Nothing grand, just stones and wood, and a carving of a single raindrop. They promised each other, "We will never use rhythm for greed again. We will never forget the price of power." Many years passed. Dryvale grew wise and humble. The rains came naturally, and the people lived in peace with the land. But, as all things do, time changed again. A new drought came. The rivers shrank. The soil cracked. The skies turned dry and quiet once more. One morning, a young girl named Amma walked to the ancient tree. She had heard the stories, the drummer, the storm, the warning. She sat beneath the shade of the tree, her head resting on its roots. She closed her eyes and listened to the wind, to the silence. And then she heard it. A faint beat, soft, steady, gentle, like a whisper from deep inside the earth. Boom, boom, ba-boom. She placed her hand on the ground. It felt warm, alive. But she didn't dig. She didn't play. She just listened, with respect. That night, the clouds returned. Slow and calm. No thunder, no storm, just soft, steady rain. It fell across the fields and filled the air with life. The people came out, smiling, arms stretched wide. No drum had been played. No price had been demanded. The rain had come as a gift, not a deal. And from that day on, the village of Dryvale remembered this truth. True harmony brings balance, not control. And some rhythms are meant only to be heard. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.